So today we'll discuss on only this topic of primitive data types. So these are actually very important uh, when it comes to any coding. So it's not just dependent on only JavaScript or something. When it comes to any type of programming knowledge or any type of programming, so these primitive data types are very important. So what are these primitive data types? So as per our previous knowledge, whatever we have, what is primitive data types? Okay. Yeah. So primitive data types are uh, some kind of a basic data types that store a single value. Okay. When it comes to non-primitive data types, those store multiple values, right? Like some objects or arrays. But when it comes to primitive data types, these are singular data types or a basic data types that store singular values, which is like only just one value. And these are not immutable. Like these are immutable, cannot be changed directly. So you cannot change the value that is declared in it directly. Okay. So and these are stored in so primitive data types are stored in stack memory. As these are all these singular values, these are all stored in stack memory. Okay. And non-primitive data types, those are stored in heap memory. All these multiple data types or objects, arrays, all this are stored in memory. Okay. And when it comes to primitive data types, there are these many number of primitive data types. Let's go one by one. So, firstly, string. What is string? So, string is something that you can store at text values. In the sense, you can store only strings, in the sense, only alphabets, or you can store alphanumerics, or you can store alphanumerics with special characters. You can store anything. You can store any type of values in string. Okay. Can we see an example? Okay. So string is also a primitive data types. It can store a text or a simple sequence of characters. Okay. So when you tell about characters, what are those? That can be a alphabet, that can be a numeric value, or that can be an special character also. Okay. Either you can store only respective to numeric values or string values, sorry, alphabets or special characters, or you can actually store all those combinations also. Okay. So, and also one more thing you have to learn is here when it comes to other programming languages, how do you create a string? You will put something like string a equal to something like this and test 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. You will put like this. So what you're doing here, you are defining the data type here with I want to store a string as a data type. Okay. But when it comes to JavaScript, it is not like that. You don't need to specify the data type. You will just say, I will tell my variable var equal to some variable name equal to, you can just include within this quotes telling test. Okay. Whenever you include something in this single quote or double quote, it will consider like this is a string. But how we can confirm this is actually stored as string or just some other random data type? That we'll see it. Okay. So this one is a string, and here these are only alphabets, correct? Suppose If I want to store, okay, before that, let's print this one. Console.log. I will, this is alphabet string, still plus tst, and then just save it. Okay. If I just run it, yeah. So it's printed alphabet strings equal to test. Okay. So in the similar way, or else I'll tell now I will put something as numeric. Okay. So this also I'll put something like 100. So if I declare like this, it will store as the numeric value. But what I was telling, anything you are declaring it in the quotes, that will be stored as string. So what I did, I just enclosed this value within the single quotes. Okay. So now if I just print this one, console.log, I'll just print this numeric test. Okay. If I just run this one, yeah, the numeric string that stored is 100. Okay. So whether it's a alphabet value or a numeric value, anything that you declare inside the single quotes, it will be considered as a string. So in the similar way, I want to store my email ID. Okay. So email ID has a special character which is called some iterate. Correct. So let's assume I put something like this. Okay. So even this also. Okay. So even if you see here, I have declared an email, but it has some special character. But I just enclosed it within single quote. So this will be also treated as a string. If I just run this, I'll be able to print this special character string, which is money@gmail.com. Okay. Now you can ask me a question. Sir, you have discussed everything and you have just put it in single quote and you are telling it is stored as a string. But how I can confirm whether it is stored as a string or an integer? Because I have an 100 value here, but I want to just get a confirmation whether this is a string or some numeric value or some other data type. How I can do it? So for that to get it, we have a function in JavaScript itself, which is called as type of. Okay, type of. So when I declare something like type of, okay, I will be able to see what is the type of this particular variable. Okay, for that, let me just print it. I'll just put something. Okay, so we'll start with the first one, alphabet test. Okay, what I'll tell is console.log. This is the type of. Okay, type of. This is the function. Okay, this is given by default by JS itself, like JavaScript itself. You can just put type of space for which variable you want to know the type of. I want to know about the numeric text. Okay, just save it. That's all. Now, if you just run it, it will give you the type of. See, for numeric test, what we declared? We declared it as 100. But as we enclose this one in single quotes, it will be stored as string. And when I use type of this particular variable name, it is returning me string. In the similar way, you can declare for other also. You can also check for other. So this is how you will be able to know what is the type also. Even if you see the email also, when I use type of email, it returned me string. It doesn't return any of the other type. Okay. So simply, whenever you want to store a string, just enclose that in a single quote and you will be able to store it in a string. Okay. So now let's next one, which is called number. So what is a number? Anyone?
So number is a numeric value.
Yeah, correct. So similar to other programming languages where you have the integer like int some a equal to 10 or 100 something like that, right? In the same way, here also it is similar. It is just rather than integer, you call it as a number. Okay. So number is actually used to store any of the numeric values like 100, 1, 2, 3, anything, anything. Okay. So let's take, so I'll tell numeric value and I'll declare something called 100. Console.log numeric value. Okay. So here also it will, it should actually print me just 100. Yeah. So this is 100. Okay. Now whether this 100 is stored as string or numeric, how I'll identify it? Same way. How we have returned the function for string, in the same way we'll write here also. We'll put console.log type of numeric test. Sorry, numeric value. Okay. So here it has to give me instead of string, before the value we declared, we enclosed it in single. Okay. So that it returns string. But here it should return me this numeric, which is like number. Yeah. So number. So this is stored as number, but the other is stored as string. Okay. So this is how you can actually store your numeric values. Okay. And next is something called Boolean. What is this Boolean? Okay. What is this Boolean? Anyone? Okay. So Boolean is something called like it stores only two values. One is true, one is false. It will not store any other things. It will store only two values, true or false. Why is this true or false? Where we actually use this booleans. Suppose I have an for loop. Okay, I have a for loop or a condition. My condition is I am doing an iteration. Okay, okay. I am doing a for loop where I am rotating my for loop for 40 times. Let's assume. Okay, in this 40 times, every time or for one instance, if it reaches to 10, I want to set some value as true. Okay, I want to set some value as true. In those conditions, we actually use this. Or let's assume you are verifying a test case. Okay, if a particular validation message like account created successfully. Okay, if I see this message, I want to store a variable like verification status equal to true. So my message is displayed, I want to store that variable as verification status equal to true. If my message is not displayed and the test case got failed, I want to show something like verification status equal to false. Okay. So like these kinds of situations, we use something called booleans. So booleans will store only two values, either true or false. Okay. So even this also, we don't store something in single quotes. We directly write something called either true or false. Okay. So I'll write something like this: boolean true status, boolean false status called false. Okay. So like this, you will store either true or false. Okay. What we'll do here, console.log. So here, false status. Okay. Now, similar to numeric source strings, it will also print me only that particular values, which is like either true or false. Yes. So it has stored the boolean true status as true and boolean false status as false. Okay. So in the similar way, if I want to know what is the type of this, I'll put something type of boolean true status. I just execute, it will store me something called boolean. Okay. So this is how you create your boolean data types, and this will hold only true or false. This doesn't have any other values. Any doubt so far? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the next data type is something called undefined. So what is this undefined? Undefined is something I have created a variable, okay, but I have not declared any value to it. Okay. So in runtime, what happens is uh, I will declare some value on a runtime, but some other API or some other database call or something, it will actually give me some value and assign it to it. Okay, maybe once we come to the framework or something, then you'll understand it more. But you can just simply remember like I have created a variable, but I have not declared any value to it, or I have not assigned any value to it. So those we call it as an undefined. Okay. So just for an example, you can see where undefined value. So what I am telling, I am creating a variable, but I am not defining or assigning any value to it. Right. So I just created a variable here. That's all. I just ended it. Did I assign any value like equal to some value? No. Right. So these we call it as an undefined variables, or sorry, undefined data types or undefined values. Okay. So this how you can print console.log undefined types, undefined value. Okay, if I just run this one, yes, it is like type undefined. So it is not returning anything. So that's why it came it as undefined. So by default itself, this will get the value as undefined. Even if you want to see the type also, it will also print the same thing called undefined type of value. So it will also print the same thing. Yeah. So this is the one. So whenever you declare a variable with no value defined, okay, you are not giving any value to it, then we call it as an undefined value. Okay. Yeah. And next comes the one more type, something called null. What is this null? Okay, okay. So in undefined, what happens is you don't pass any value. Okay. So the value itself has comes as undefined. But when it comes to null, what you do is you are explicitly telling like I am assigning a value as null itself. Okay. So you are giving the value as something called null. In undefined, you don't give the value, but in null, you give the value as null. Okay. So if you want to print this one, you see, I want to know what is the type of this. Console.log type of null values. It's an object. Okay. It is not returning you null. Why is it? Okay. So the thing is, right, actually, it should also actually return the null itself, but it returns as an object. This is just a bug in the JS itself. It's not some expected thing. It is just a bug in the JS itself. But just to make sure the existing implementations or anything that are already present to work, they have just continued this. Okay. It will always return you something called object itself. Okay. This is not the expected one. Yeah. But due to this legacy JS bug, it is actually continuing just to support the backward compatibility, which is already been existing. Okay. Yeah. And next is the big int. So what is this big int? So big int is something like whenever you want to store a large number of integer values, like the numbers. So large number of values, like the big ones. I think for our testing, definitely will not use this big int. But just for your knowledge, yes, you should be aware of this BigInt. Okay, so this one will store very large integer values. So how do you store this big int? So let's see. So I will declare something called okay, or let's say like this. Okay, and I'll store this one. I'll just ask it type of my big int. If I run it, what it will return? It will return me number. This is a big value, but still it is showing it as number. Why? Okay. So generally what it expects is whenever you want to declare something as a big number, you want to append, you should append the value at the last with something called n. Okay. If you append something called n, then it will consider this one as a big integer. Else, it will always consider it as a number itself. So if you see here, what I just did, I just appended something called n here. Okay. Once I append it as n, it has converted into an big integer. Okay. So the only difference between a number and a big integer is like whenever you declare all the values with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or n number of values, it will still consider it as a number. But whenever you append something called n at the last, yeah, it will consider it as a big integer. But do we have anything? Do we have any use for our testing? Any use? Like, do we really store this many number of? If I want to tell that answer, it is no. But just for our knowledge, yes, you have to definitely know all the data types. Yes, it is also one of the data type. Okay. Yeah. And next comes something called symbol. So what is the symbol? Symbol is also a data type. So this one is mainly used something called if I want to create some unique identifiers. So in the sense, what I would tell is mm, in an object, I have something called ID. Okay. I have something called ID and that ID will store something of a employee IDs. Okay. Employee IDs is same for each employee, true or false?
No, it's unique for everyone.
Correct, right? So whenever you want to store something like those unique identifiers, like unique of the employee IDs, so in those cases, we use something called this symbols. But do we use these symbols in testing? Definitely no. We don't use these symbols. Like I have not come across any of the use case where I use these symbols. But just for our knowledge, we should also know about these symbols. Okay. Whenever I want to store some employee ID, okay, or some kind of an unique identifier for a respective object, right? So in those cases, we use something called symbols. Okay. So just for an example, let's go to it. Okay. I have something called where id equal to symbol of what I'll tell employee id. Okay. So here I'll tell let id one equal to, so or else, yeah, let's first identify this one itself. Okay. Console dot log type of id. Okay. So I want to know the type of this particular ID. If I just run it, yeah, see, it has returned me this type as symbol. Okay, now I will declare. Now, how I can assign a value to this symbol? So I'm telling, hey, I have something called a variable as ID, but that ID should store the employee ID of my employee. Okay. Now I want to assign some value to it. How I can do it? Okay. For that, what I'll do is I'll declare some constant, something called employee. So here in this, first what I'll do, I'll declare something like name equal to something called money. Okay. So this is my object. Okay. But I want to add my employee ID to this employee object. So here employee of ID equal to some 101. So this is my employee ID. Okay, what is this employee ID of the ID and everything? For now, just remember this kind of a syntax. Whenever to a particular object I want to add something, I can do like this. Okay. But when we come to the non-primitive data types, right? There we'll discuss about arrays and objects. So in that we'll know how you can declare an object, how you can declare an array and everything. But for now, just remember this one. Okay. So in this way, I'm assigning some value to my employee ID. So I'll just print console.log employee of ID. Okay. So in this way, if I just print this, just telling like already I have defined this variable here. So let's put employee one. Also I'll put employee one. Save it. Just clear this. Yeah. If you see, the value that I saved is 101. So the same has been assigned to it and stored. Okay. So in this way, I can define a symbol and store a value to it and get the type of the symbol. Okay. So this is how you declare your primitive data types. So these are all the primitive data types that you actually need at the time of any programming skill. See, here you might see the number, but in Java you might see that as an integer. So like that, you will have a different type of the data types. Like the names will vary, but at the end of the day, you want to store all those type of values, right? So here, just to cover all this, we'll take one simple example where we will be using uh, which of the data types that we mostly use. Okay, and we'll just try to reuse all those and write some simple program. Okay, so let's first I'll create a new file here. Okay, data types dot js. Okay, so what I'll do is first variable, I'll declare some string. I'll come to script coding, something like this. Now, what I'm doing is I'm performing some kind of an addition, simple program where a equal to, for doing addition, what are the types that we need? Sorry, 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 I was not able to hear you properly. Yeah, correct. So I'll declare one variable with 10 and one more with b equal to one more, which is called 20. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I will declare one Boolean status also, which is called status. By default, I'll put something as false. Okay. Okay. I'll declare it as false. Now, what I'll do is I'll do something called result. Result equal to a plus b. Okay. I'll do something like this. So here, if my result greater than 25, I'm just putting something like this. If my result is greater than 25, I want to do something called my status. I want to put it as true. Okay. Else, I want to put status as false itself. I don't need to assign it, but just for understanding, I'm just giving it. Okay. I've given it as false. So if I give it as true, I'll write something called console.log. I'll tell I want to print my result status. What is my result status? So I'll just put like status. Okay. In the similar way, same thing. Result status. Whether it's true or false. We'll know by this one. Okay. I can do one thing here. If okay, first let's run this, then we'll see. Okay. Console.log. I'll print this welcome. Okay. I'll just print this welcome. So this is a simple program of addition. So in this way, we'll try to use our data types. So here, if you see, I have used string data type. Here, integer. Here, I used Boolean like this. Okay. So if I just run this one, node data types, let's run it. See. So what it done? It came welcome to JavaScript coding. Then it printed me a status called true. Why? Because 20 plus 10 is equal to 30. So the result is greater than 25. So that's why it printed me status as true. Let's assume if I put something like 10 here. Okay. Now it will be like 10 plus 10, which is like 20. So it is less than 25. So it has to print me false. See, result status is false. Okay. So in this way, you will be able to use your programs or your data types. Okay. Let's assume now once I came to this status, I want to assign this one to null. Okay. My value result equal to null. Now, if I just run it, what will happen? It will not happen anything. It will just return false. Okay. But now, after this, what I do is, if I print console.log of result value. Okay. So now what it will print? Anyone? So what I have done it here? If my condition is false, I want to set my result as null value rather than being that result of 20 or 30 or anything. I just want to put it as null. So that's why if If you just run it, it will return you null value. This is the one. Okay. So this is how, in a programmatic way, you can actually use your data types. So this is a string, this is an integer, this is a boolean. In the condition, you are assigning some boolean value, like you are reassigning it, like you are changing it. So he first you declared status as false, but after some condition you want to change that as true. So you reassign this value with true. Okay, and after that, for the result also, I have a result. If my result is false, like if my status is false, I want to update that value as null. So in that ways, conditionally you have updated the result to null. And once after this, if I print this, I have to get the value as null itself. So in this way, you will be able to assign the values, declare it, print it, and reassign it. Okay. So this is all about the primitive data types. So these are all the data types. Mainly we use it in a regular day-to-day basis. So that's why I just given it a simple program also. Okay. Yeah. Anyone has any doubts?